The blizzard swept across the high plains like a devil unchained, white-oak winds howling through the broken pine and brittle sagebrush. Jake Harlan, a quiet cowboy with a scar running from his left temple to his jawline, squinted into the blinding storm, his horse plodding wearily beneath him. He'd been riding toward Deadwood Junction for the better part of a day, searching for shelter and supplies before the worst of winter closed the roads. Then he saw her. At first, he thought it was a pile of rags half buried in snow. But a movement, a twitch of a hand, made him jump down from his saddle. There, curled beneath a shattered wagon and clinging to a blood-soaked blanket, was a woman. Her lips were cracked, face frostbitten, and one leg bent at an awful angle. "Miss, hey," Jake rasped, his gloved hand brushing snow from her face. She flinched. "I ain't here to hurt you. You're gonna freeze if I leave you." She blinked slowly, mouth parting to whisper, "Help me." Jake didn't wait for more. He wrapped her in his heavy coat, lifted her into the saddle, and rode through the storm to the only place he had left, a half-burnt cabin he'd fixed up after leaving the cattle drives 2 years back. He didn't even know her name. Chapter 2, The Cabin and the Fire. The first days were touch and go. Jake set her broken leg, fed her broth spoonful by spoonful, and kept the fire blazing through each night. She fought a fever like a wildcat, moaning and dreaming in gasps, but eventually her breath slowed and color returned to her cheeks. When her eyes opened fully, she didn't smile. She stared at him with mistrust and the silent strength of someone who'd known too many betrayals. "I'm Clara," she finally said. "Jake." "Where am I?" "My place. Cabin near Elk Ridge. You were near frozen and bleeding. What happened?" She looked away, fingers trembling in her lap. "Ambush. Bandits. We were heading west, me and my brother. They killed him. Thought I was dead too, I guess. I must have crawled back to the wagon." Jake said nothing. He knew better than to push. Instead, he passed her the broth, then mended her splintered crutch. Days turned to weeks. The wind outside never let up, but inside the cabin, something fragile and healing began to bloom. Chapter 3, Gunsmoke in the Snow. By late January, Clara could hobble around with a crutch. She insisted on helping, chopping vegetables, gathering eggs, sewing buttons on Jake's shirts. She was sharp, with a dry wit and a backbone of iron. One evening, she found Jake cleaning his rifle by the fire. "You served in the war?" she asked. Jake nodded. "Union scout. Texas-born, though." She studied him a moment. "You don't talk much." "I lost the habit. Most folks don't care for what I got to say." "Well," she said, lowering herself to a stool, "I care." That night, Clara told him about her life, how she'd grown up on a Kansas farm, fought off a drunk stepfather, taught herself to read, and followed her brother to the frontier hoping to start a new life. Her voice cracked when she spoke of her brother's kindness. "I failed him," she whispered. "I should have stopped the wagon. Something didn't feel right." Jake met her eyes. "You survived. That takes more strength than most." Their hands touched over the firewood that night, and neither pulled away. Chapter 4, Spring and Shadows. By the time the snow melted, Clara had thrown away her crutch. She walked with a limp, but she never complained. She and Jake planted vegetables, built a second coop, and even started repairing the old corral. But peace never lasted long on the frontier. One afternoon, while returning from town with supplies, Jake spotted riders in the distance. 3 men, one with a snake tattoo on his neck. He tensed, lowering his hat brim. "You recognize them?" Clara asked. "Maybe," Jake muttered. "Could be the gang that's been raiding trails and ranches. Could be the ones who hurt you." That night, Jake oiled his guns, and Clara sat beside him sharpening a long hunting knife. "I'm not running," she said. "I lost everything once. I'm not losing this place too." Jake stared at her, a slow realization dawning. She wasn't just a survivor. She was a partner, in pain and in purpose. They stayed up that night, listening for hoofbeats. Chapter 5, Blood and Dust. The raiders came at dawn. Jake and Clara had set traps, barricaded the porch, and laid low behind stacked wood piles. When the gunfire started, it was Clara who took the first shot, dropping a rider from his saddle like a seasoned scout. "Nice shot," Jake muttered, reloading. "Thank you kindly," she said with a smirk. Two of the raiders flanked the barn, but Clara, quick on her feet despite her limp, caught one with a blast of buckshot. Jake handled the last with his revolver, a clean shot to the chest. By the time it was over, 3 bodies lay still in the dust. Jake looked at Clara, panting. "You all right?" She wiped blood from her brow. "Never better." But they knew it wasn't over. The man with the snake tattoo had escaped. Chapter 6, Bounties and Boundaries. News traveled fast. The sheriff from Deadwood Junction arrived 2 days later, offering a reward. Turned out the gang was wanted in 3 counties. Jake refused the money, but Clara took it. "We need windows that don't let in the wind," she said. They rebuilt the barn, added a second room to the cabin, and even took in a stray dog with a busted paw. The dog, like them, healed in its own time. Still, Clara had nightmares. Jake often woke to her gasping, her hands gripping the blanket like a lifeline. One night, he reached for her. "You're safe. I'm here." She didn't pull away. Instead, she leaned into him, and for the first time since the blizzard, she cried. He held her until the morning. Chapter 7, The Rider Returns. Summer brought green hills and strong crops. Clara planted wildflowers around the fence, and Jake taught her how to shoot better than most men in town. But then, one hot July afternoon, a rider appeared on the ridge. Snake tattoo, gun on his hip. Jake stood on the porch with his Winchester. Clara stepped out beside him, rifle in hand. The man sneered. "You cost me my boys. Time to settle up." Jake said, "You ain't walking away." But it was Clara who moved first. Her shot clipped the raider's shoulder, spinning him off his horse. Before he could reach for his gun, Jake put one clean round through his thigh. The man wailed, crawling in the dust. Jake walked over, jaw tight. "You've got a choice. Never come near here again, or I bury you right now." The man sobbed. "I'm done, done." Jake let him crawl away. Clara limped over, eyes hard. "You sure we should have let him go?" she asked. Jake looked to the horizon. "No, but we don't have to carry another death on our shoulders." Chapter 8, More Than Survival. The next few months were quiet, peaceful, even. They built a small forge behind the barn. Clara began crafting horseshoes and repairing tools, and folks in town started calling her Smitty Rose. Jake watched her with pride. She was no longer just surviving. She was living. One evening, under a tangerine sky, Jake took Clara's hand. "I never thanked you," he said. "For what?" "For saving me." Clara chuckled. "Jake Harlan, you found me half dead in a blizzard. You saved me." He shook his head. "I've been alive a long time, Clara, but I didn't start living till you came along."